Todd McFarlane has just been announced as the VP of Content and Character Development at Marvel Comics. That's a hypothetical that I wish I could say. Thank you for tuning in. This is your boy Nerdicane, and I am doing Spawn number 301. If you don't follow Spawn, if you have never really been collecting Spawn, this is a great time to get in. I almost say that Spawn has been revitalized, but I don't think Spawn has ever had. I mean, it's had its lulls, but overall, I don't think Spawn has really ever needed revitalization because it's creator driven, creator owned. There is, since Spawn number 300, there's an increase in energy. You're seeing sort of a new genesis of this character. Is the counter, the power counter that Spawn was famously known for, that was part of his powers, is he had a store of, his power was finite. He had a store of power from hell, and it was like an hourglass. It always ticked down. In this episode, in this issue, it goes to zero. It finally goes to zero, and you see sort of what is beyond that. Now, you sort of see that Spawn has retained some sort of power from hell, and he's using that now, and he's lost his symbiote suit. He's trying to regrow it, because it is a symbiote. It's a creature that you can regrow and sort of nurture back to its former power. This is a great time to get into Marvel, not Marvel, but into Spawn. Look at this art. This is Greg Capullo. I mean, look how gorgeous that is. Look how much emotion that is, and how much just effort is in there. And then there's another artist in this as well, for the second part of the second chapter of this. A little more of it looks sort of like this. It has a little more of a fantasy, more of almost a Conan style to it, but I like them both. I like the use of colors. Like, look at the reds and the darks. I really like the way that they use it. So I mean, Greg Capullo is Greg Capullo. But the other artist, the second artist, sorry, let me find his name. Jason Sean Alexander holds his own. I mean, he's not Greg Capullo, but he holds his own. I recommend this. Go get it. This is excellent. Sorry about the bluff at the beginning, but as I look at this, most of the rest of the time of this, it's a really short review. This is sort of the end of the review. At 3 minutes, it's a recommend. Go get this. I've put this on my pull list, and I'm gonna keep it there as long as it goes. And I'm re-energized in Spawn. I'm picking up Spawn again every month. What I really wanted to talk about is, first off, how exciting would that be if that announcement came out? Currently, that position, VP of Character and Content Development, is sort of a made-up position. It's a position that was never really there at Marvel Comics until it was filled by Sana Amanat. If that came out, man, if that was suddenly Todd McFarlane's position at Marvel Comics, that would be very excited. This guy broke into, and you talk about people who've earned their position. He earned his position. He's very famous. He tells, he'll tell the story of sending out hundreds and hundreds of portfolios and samples, and samples of his work to editors, and finally he got a break somewhere at a just a fill-in story, and from there he just kept grinding and kept working, as opposed to nowadays Sana Amanat goes out to Tumblr, or through a friend of a friend of a friend finds somebody who might sort of be interested in comics and never written a comic before, Leah Williams, and then we get the results that we have now. But I wanted to talk a little bit, sorry about the foot, I wanted to talk a little bit about what Marvel Comics has forgotten. Currently in Marvel Comics, I don't think there's a single continuous comic book that is anywhere near that number. They've resorted to using legacy numbers to sort of boost the numbers. This is what was great. These big numbers. The fact that these characters and these teams had a legacy, that was the really interesting thing about Marvel Comics when I got into comics. I got into comics about the time Weapon X hit in Marvel Comics Presents. I think they had just gotten done. The X-Men had just gotten done doing Extinction Agenda, and they were, sort of rebuilding the next arc after that. And it was a really high number. It was up in like the 270s or the 260s. And that wasn't really daunting for me. If anything, that was very exciting because I could go to my comic book store and pick up an old number, pick up a number 150, a number 152, see what was going on, kind of fill in the blanks. I could catch on with a story arc now at the current time, but I could always look back and find, oh, this is why Forge is this way. This is, where Forge came from. This is how Forge and Storm's relationship was forged, because it had that legacy, it had that line. This right here, you hit a brother right in the heart with this. This is the last page of this comic book. He has a record. This is 301 of a creator-owned and creator-made comic book. And yes, it is a record for him. But I mean, look at this. Look at that young guy. This was Spawn number 1. That's his daughter Kyan. I think that's how that name is pronounced. You fast forward 30 years later, and there he is, and he's been very successful. That's why we call him the Todd Father. But to think about the legacy and to think about we're looking at two labors of love. Raising a kid is not easy. I'm discovering that now. With little Nerdicane Jr. It's not easy. And creating a comic book, as you can ask Richard C. Meyer or Ethan Van Sciver, also an absolute labor of love. It's not easy because there's so many pitfalls. In both, there are so many pitfalls along the way. So you have to be in it to win it. And I really can't think of anybody at Marvel, aside from picking up a paycheck, are in it to win it anymore. Mark Waid and Dan Slott, who were these creative voices, 20 years ago. They're really just pumping out mediocre work. I'm not sure. Well, Mark Waid's doing less and less because he's busy bilking French investors who think they're going to get into Hollywood with humanity first. Yeah, that's an absolute train wreck. But I wanted to look at this, and I wanted you to look at this and point to Marvel. You've lost your way. You've sort of lost this element that the fans really love, that the people who actually are loyal to a character, are loyal to a comic book company, like what we like. You've sort of turned the philosophy up on its head. Is every time you do a new story arc for Miss Marvel or Captain Marvel, you reboot it with a number 1. You're playing for the short money. You're playing for that possible comic book prospector, which there aren't anymore. Their comic books are not valuable anymore. There's very few comics coming out that can have any collectible value because 10 months down the road, a year and a half down the road, you're just going to reboot that character. If Captain Marvel, I think Captain Marvel would probably be, as a comic book, more successful if they weren't doing reboots every time. If they were sticking with it, and if we were allowed to see this character grow and fail and triumph. I think if they had not been doing so many reboots of Captain Marvel, we would probably be getting close to a milestone for Captain Marvel. We'd probably be getting close to like an issue 100 with Captain Marvel, but we're just not seeing that anymore at Marvel. They're taking the short route. This is 30 years of Todd McFarlane's life has been spent on Spawn, and here we are. We're at the culmination. And what does he get? And what I hope he gets at the end of that 27 years is, and I'm going to push for it, a revitalization of that character. Even in this comic book, you're seeing a revitalization, like I said, a new genesis of Al Simmons, of Spawn. But in this book, you're seeing other Hellspawns are popping up. I'll do a little spoiler. Look, this is a new Hellspawn. I don't know much about it. I don't know much about this character's background. He was sort of hinted at in issue number 300, but here we go. We have another Hellspawn. I don't know. And it lays the groundwork. So he's going to spend a lot of issues and some of his story going forward, explaining who that character is and why we should care or why we should fear that character. But yeah, it's really. Thank you for watching this whole time. I've gone on pretty long. The review was like 3 minutes, and the rest of it was a lot longer. But let's start to think about that. Maybe I would love to see Marvel get back to that. Is sticking with something. Yes, you can change it. As your stories go along, is if it's not resonating with the fans, you changed it. There were a lot of things that I can't think of offhand, but there was a lot of things in Spider-Man that they experimented with and people didn't like it, so they were like, okay, we're not going to do that. We're going to quietly move on to the next thing. We're not, just because this story arc didn't resonate with the fans doesn't mean we're going to throw away ASM, Amazing Spider-Man. Amazing Spider-Man was such a long run. And then they threw it away because they wanted to go for that quick reboot money. But that's my review of this Spawn number 301. It was the art is really good. As I said, it's building to something new. This is a great time. If you've never really picked up Spawn, you should. Not just for the Todd Father, because he's put 27 years of work into this, and I guarantee you he's more proud of his daughter than he is of this book. But these are two major works of love that you spend a lifetime working on, and that's something we should reward as comic book fans, as comic book buyers, not people who just like comic books. Anybody can say that. We are comic book buyers. I think you should go out and get this, and I think it's a really good time to latch on to get into Spawn again. Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this. Also, I wanted to say a big thank you to Gold Gauntlet Comics, who is my newest subscriber. Thank you for your time. I hope I got that name right. To anybody who I missed, I don't get a whole lot of notification as to who my subscribers are. I think I'm up to 222 now, so there's a lot that subscribe that I didn't know about. But thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. You guys hit a like, hit subscribe. Go have a good day. Go find something you like, because tomorrow is New Comic Book Day. Bye.